excited that you guys are here. Excited. Man, that song and that moment just sets it up. This series, we're talking about God's promises. Talking about the promises of God and the faithfulness of God. And the thing is if we know His promises and if we know what He has said that we can have and that we can do and what is ours, then we can stand on that. We can hold Him to it. We can believe God for it. And so I'm just excited tonight to continue talking about the promises of God. Last week we talked a little bit about just the promise that He said, if you confess your sins, then He is faithful to forgive your sins. You remember us talking about, like, sometimes there's some things in our relationship with God that gets in there, some sin and some wrong, some attitudes or some actions that begin to rub and create some friction and some sore spots in our relationship with God. And then we have the choice in those moments to address it and to repent and to trust Him and His promise to forgive us, or we can just ignore it and it ended up causing a sore and pain in our life. And so we talked a little bit about that. And how that sometimes we don't always handle those situations correctly. Has anyone here ever lied? You've ever lied? How many of you, when you lied, you had to tell another lie to cover up that lie? And then you had to tell another lie to cover up the lie that you had to lie about to lie because you lied the first time? And then before you know, like, you don't even know what the truth is because you've convinced yourself of all the lies that you've been telling? Anybody besides me? Okay. So literally there was one time in my life, only one time in my life, that I didn't do so well in school. I was kind of being a little bit of a turd and not doing my schoolwork the right way and being a little bit lazy. And when report card time came, I knew I was in big trouble. Anybody ever been in trouble for a report card? Like, it comes home and you're like, oh Jesus, you immediately start fasting and praying. And you're terrified because, like, you're scared to death. So do they still mail the report cards, or do they give them to you to give to your parents? Okay, see, so my school always mailed the report cards to the house. And so I knew what was going to be on the report card. And so every day I checked the mail so that I could intercept it from coming to my parents. And so here I was, and I checked the mail, and then sure enough, it was there. When I wasn't always the smartest kid because I had two siblings. And if I was smart, I would have stole their report cards too. But I didn't. I left their two report cards in the mailbox, and I only took mine. And so, funny thing, we get home, everyone's opening report cards. Oh, look what I did. Oh, congrats, Lacey, you're perfect. That was my older sister. Then my little brother, Justin, oh, you did okay. Yeah, he's dumb, but he's the baby, so he gets away with it. So they're like, Chad, where's yours? Like, I don't know, that postman, man. Like, I think they said something about, like, there was, like, a terrorist attack on the postman that was supposed to come from my school to here. And I start conjuring up this like, horrific, unbelievable story as to why my report card was the only one that didn't make it to the mailbox. And that story just kept growing. It's like, oh, is that what happened? Yes. And then, like, I tried to tell my teacher, I need a report card because I know I've done really well and I want to show off to my parents, so that, oh, you've done really well. Yes, I've done really well. Like, I'm sure of it, Mom. Like, it's going to be great. Like, you're going to love me way more than my other two siblings for the first time ever. And so, like, I keep lying, and it just snowballs. Does anybody know what that feels like? Where it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. And what's even worse is my parents actually believed me for a little bit. And so there were a few days where I was getting away with it. But how many of you know that when you have this thing in your life and with this pressure, like, even though you're kind of getting away with it and you haven't got busted yet, how many of you know the burden and the weight that you just carry around waiting to get caught? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like, it feels like every step is like 500 pounds. Like you're just waiting. It's like, oh, is today the day? Am I busted today? Like, am I in trouble? Anybody know that the burden of just like, oh. And I'll never forget getting caught, mainly because I got beat within an inch of my life. I'm joking. It wasn't child abuse. It was close, but it wasn't. But I'll never forget the day because I remember there actually being some relief that I got caught. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like when it's finally out in the open and you're kind of like, you're just like, oh, you know what? I'm just tired. I'm just glad that all that is over. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Come on, raise your hand. It's like it's all finally out in the open. You've got a clear conscience, and you're like, I'm just glad that it's out in the open, and I don't have to keep lying and covering up and trying to remember what lie I told to who. You know what I'm talking about? That burden. That is difficult. It's a weight to carry. Kendall, come here for just a second. So this is a weighted vest. And Kendall, I just want you to wear this for the service, and I'll come get it from you later. So just put this on. Like, come here, put your head in there. All right, there. Yeah, it's kind of heavy. You can sit down with it, I guess. Sure. Yeah, go sit down with it. Just wear that here in a little bit, and your shoulders are going to get a good workout tonight. So, but this is just like a representation of just kind of the weight that you carry around. It's the weight that you just carry around, the weight of the burden and the heaviness. But it doesn't only come, hear me tonight, the weight of life and the burden of life doesn't only come from sin. Sometimes it does. Sometimes, let's just be honest, sometimes we bring all the trouble on ourselves. Come on, somebody. Sometimes you are your own worst enemy. Sometimes the person you need to chew out is the dummy looking back at you in the mirror. It's nobody else's fault. It's you, dummy, all right? Like, why you keep doing this to me? Like, sometimes you are your own worst enemy, but that's not always the case. Sometimes, let's just get real, let's just be honest, sometimes life is just hard. Sometimes life just has a weight to it, a burden to it. Sometimes there's things, and it gets, I wouldn't say that it gets easier as you get older. I wouldn't even say that it gets harder as you get older, although some of it does. But I would say that it just changes as you get older. But I don't want to discount the pressure that you guys feel today, because I believe there's an immense amount of pressure on you. How many of you have ever felt the weight and the burden of school? Come on, somebody. Anybody in like AP classes, pre-AP classes, and it's kicking your tail right now? You're like, I'm not that smart. Why did my counselor put me in this? What were they thinking? I just want to be average. I'm done being above average. Somebody? Can I just be a normal human? All us normal people are like, yeah, shut up, you big crybaby. Should have been slagging off like me and you'd have easy street. All right, so sometimes there's a weight to that, man. The pressure of school, there's tests. Anybody that like you freak out, like you have like extreme anxiety, fear, like tests are a struggle. You feel the weight and the burden. Then you finally take it, and the weight doesn't lift until you get your score back and you realize you did okay. Yeah, but there's a weight. You got classes. How many of you feel the weight of homework like all the time? There's always something hanging over your head. There's always that burden, the heaviness. Oh, I got to get this done. And the weight from the homework doesn't lift until what? Until you can finally get it all done, put it in your bag, and then you can relax, right? How many of you play sports or have extracurriculars? Do something. There's band, there's dance, there's drama, there's theater, there's sports, there's everything. And there's a weight and a burden attached to that. There's practices, there's rehearsals, there's first string, there's second string, there's water boy. Like, what am I going to be? There's a weight and there's a pressure. There's like this, the heaviness. I got to impress this coach. I'm not going to get the playing time. And then my dad's going to wonder, why are you not getting playing time? And it's because, I don't know, but maybe it's the coach's fault, or maybe it's because I'm 4 foot tall. I don't know. But there's a weight and a pressure even with sports. How many of you have ever felt a weight and a burden with relationships? Anybody ever had some pressure from boyfriends, girlfriends, like drama, or drama inside of your friend circle. This one's saying this one, and this one's saying that, and then there's this one's talking about this one, and somehow I got caught in the middle. And there's this burden that you carry around because you're trying to be a friend to this one, but you're also trying to be a friend to this one. But if I'm a friend to this one, then they think I'm not their friend anymore, and then I can't be this one. So I'm trying to talk to this one in secret, and then I can run over here and talk to this one in secret, but then I'm trying to not tell them what's going on with this one and this one. Anybody know the burden of friendships? Yeah. There's a weight and there's a heaviness. What about the weight of parents? The burden that comes with having parentals. They have such high expectations, and their rules are so strict. And they got this pressure on me to be like my older sibling. When are they going to understand that's not me? Come on, somebody. We can preach right there. We can have an altar call right now. Dad thinks I ought to be first string. Lord knows he didn't give me any genetics to help out. The pressure of grades and achievement and the parents that put it on you. And then him and mom want to fight and act like that it doesn't affect me. Come on, somebody. You know what it's like going to school after your parents are fighting and there's tension in the house? The burden that you carry around and the weight of those family issues. Somebody, wave at me unless I'm the only one. Hello, somebody. Then there's the pressure of church. Let's just be real for just a second. Some of y'all avoid me like the plague because every time you see me, you feel guilty the fact that you ain't been here in 6 months. And so you feel the pressure, I got to be there every week, and then if I don't, and then I know I ain't living the right way, and so I feel this, like they want me to be like this, and then they want me to do this, and Pastor Chad says this, and I'm doing this, and there's this pressure. I feel like I'm letting God down, letting my small group leader down, letting Pastor Chad down, letting Harvest Time down. Oh, yeah, the whole world's going to hell, and it's my fault. You feeling the pressure. Say this with me. Life is hard. Life is hard, guys. Let's not discount the fact that every single one of us in our lives, hear me. Every single one of us in our lives are carrying weight. The Bible uses the word burden. That's the Bible word for weight or heaviness. You know what I'm talking about? Just the heaviness of life weighs down you. Those relationships and that school and that huge schedule and that big test that you've got coming, and then family issues and this and that and all of this pressure and all of this weight, and it gets heavy over time, doesn't it? It gets heavy. Life is hard. It's full. Life is full. It's busy. Come on. It's busy. It's difficult. But tonight there's a beautiful promise in Matthew chapter 11 that says this. This is Jesus talking. This is what Jesus says. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened or under a heavy weight, and I will give you" what? Rest. Have you ever been so burdened by the things of life and like literally you just get home and you're like, all I want to do is rest for 5 minutes? I just need, like, I'm not asking to get out of the class. I'm asking for a nap. I'm not asking for everything to be fixed. I'm literally just asking for some rest. You know what I'm talking about? Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Look what he says. Come on, pay attention. Key in here. This is the whole thing. All that I say doesn't matter, but this is the only thing that matters right here. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, for I am gentle and I'm humble in heart. And you will find, here it is again, rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Tonight I want to give you just 3 quick things, just kind of unpack this scripture and help us understand this promise so that we can stand on it when life gets heavy. Okay? Number 1, Jesus said, "Come to me." Very first thing he says, come to who? Me. Jesus says, come to me. The question that I would have to ask is, where do you go when life gets heavy? Who do you typically go to when life gets heavy? Do you go to your parents? Do you have a parent that you talk to a lot about heaviness of life? Do you go to a friend? Do you just air it all out on social media for the world to see? Some of you do. That's dumb. What do you do? What do you do? Do you go to a friend circle? You go to your closet and scream? You just like scream into the pillow? Do you punch things in the garage? Do you tantalize the neighborhood cats? I don't know what you do. Don't do that. That's illegal. Do you take it out on people? I don't know. Where do you go? Hear me, please, 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 please. Shh, shh, shh. Where do you go when life gets heavy? Where do you go? What's your instinct? When life is weighing you down, when things are overwhelming, when the burden is too much, Jesus gives us an invitation. And in that moment, he simply says, come to me. You have an invitation from God, from Jesus himself. He said, you don't have to do anything first. You don't have to figure anything out. You don't even have to repent yet. You don't have to have all your ducks in a row. You don't have to have the answers. You don't need to sit and like make a list of the good and the bad and weigh in your options. You don't have to do any of that. He just says, hey, when you're feeling heavy, when you're feeling weighed down, when life is tough, and when you're exhausted and you're tired, come to me. You don't have to be perfect. Just come. Don't run away and try to get it. Don't try doing it on your own. Don't poll the audience or phone a friend. Come. Y'all don't get that because it's Everybody's a Millionaire show back in the 2000s. Ancient history. He just says, just come. Here's the deal you have to understand. Jesus Christ literally has made every single attempt possible to insert himself in your life so that he can help you with things like this. He left heaven. He came to earth in the form of a man. He lived a perfect life. He gave himself as a sacrifice on the cross so that you didn't have to go through a priest or kill a goat to have a relationship with him, but so that you could have real relationship with a real God and have real access to him. He gave his life on the cross. Then he resurrected himself on the third day. He goes to heaven. He's preparing a place there for you. And literally all you have to do is say, hey, Jesus, and he's there. He's done everything that he could possibly do. Revelation chapter 3, verse 20 puts it this way. Jesus says, hey, here I am. I'm standing at the door and I'm knocking. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person and they with me. This is what Jesus is saying. Hey, I have come all the way. You live so far from me in your sin and in your heaviness and in your pain and in your burden. But I have come all the way from heaven as far as I could possibly come. And I'm standing at the door of your life and I'm knocking and I'm knocking. I can't come in unless you invite me. This is as far as I can come. But if you will open the door, then I'm going to come in and baby, we're going to have a good time. He said, I can't come any further. He will not force you to give him your burden. He won't force you to serve him. He won't force you. He's not going to come in like SWAT and kick down the door and be like, hands up, punk, I'm here to rule your life. That ain't Jesus. But he's come, he's done everything he can. And now he's gently knocking at the heart's door, saying, hey, why are you hiding in there? What are you hiding? You hiding heaviness? Let me in, I'll take care of it. You got a mess? Look, you don't have to dust the house for Jesus. Let me in. I'm gonna take care of things. You don't have to clean up and hide everything. You know how it is when company shows up unexpected and your mom is like, you know what I'm talking about? Like your mom, why is there dirty clothes in the fridge? Because the neighbor came over and didn't bother to call first. And she's like throwing clothes in the fridge and slamming the door to hide. Hi, how are you? So good to see you. Anybody else's mom like crazy like mine? Some of y'all are trying to get your life ready. You're trying to clean your house. You're trying to look spotless. And Jesus is saying, I don't care about your mess. That's why I want to come in. I'm standing at the door of your heart and I'm knocking. He said, come to me. Are you heavy? Is life hard? Are you tired and exhausted and hurting? Come to me. Second thing he says, take my yoke upon you. Can I tell you, this has nothing to do with the egg and I. This is not about how you like your eggs. By the way, if you don't like them over medium, there's something wrong with you. Over medium is how you eat eggs, not easy or hard or anything else. Over medium. Perfect. He said, take my yoke upon you. This isn't about eggs. Yoke. A yoke is, has anybody ever seen in the olden days, the hitch that they would use, it's like a big wooden beam that would go across the shoulders of oxen or cattle or donkeys or something like that to help them pull, to plow or a wagon or is a beast of burden, okay? Do you know what I'm talking about? The giant wooden beam that went across their shoulders, that is called a yoke. All right? Yoke's on you, all right? Wow. I'm officially a father. That was a quality dad joke. All right. Jackson, are you proud of me right now? So he said, take my yoke upon you. So a yoke was that big piece of lumber, like a big beam that went across the shoulders. And the reason that they would do that is because it would attach that animal to another animal, and it would also attach them to a wagon or a plow or something that was used for service. Okay, that had a job. It was doing something important, and so this yoke it fastened these two animals together. It made them work side by side, and it made them work as one. They had to keep in step with each other, and they had to pull together. But even more than that, when the yoke was put across the two of them, it dispersed the weight of what was behind them. So that it wasn't just one animal and then another animal, but it would spread it across the two so that they could pull it easier. And see, the reality is in our lives, there are things in our life and in our past that we're carrying, and there's some heaviness and there's some burdens, and Jesus is saying, hey, if you'll come to me and put my yoke on you, I can help you with that. Because look, this is what it is. What they would do, this is super cool. What they would do is they would typically they would put an older oxen that kind of knew the game, knew what to do. He was strong, he was tough, he was smart, he had been there before, he was experienced, and they would pair him with a younger oxen that is maybe not so smart, not so tough, hadn't been there before, maybe a little bit scared, has some anxiety. When animals are in situations like that for the first time, they get a little nervous and they do dumb things. And so they said, okay, I'm going to yoke you together with this older oxen, and we're gonna help you out. Because what would happen is the younger oxen who had never carried a weight like that before, or had never faced a burden like that before, or had never been in a situation like that before, would simply look to his side and see that he's yoked to this guy, and I'm just gonna do what he does. And so the older oxen would go through his thing, and he would pull a little bit harder to show him, hey, this is how you do it, young bull. You know, this is how you do it, young blood. This is how we're going to get through this thing. I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you. I'm not going to freak out at danger, and I'm not going to get skittish when uncertainty comes, and I'm not going to freak out. I know it's heavy, and I know there's a weight, and I know it's hard, but baby, you just got to keep walking, and you got to keep pulling, and it's okay, because I'm here with you every step of the way. That's what it was. So in the same way, in your life, Jesus is saying, come to me and put my yoke on you. He said, you've been carrying something that's way too heavy for you to carry it alone. And you've been attached to people that aren't teaching you the right way to carry it. So if you will take my yoke upon you, then you will match me step for step. And baby, I've been here from the beginning of time, and there ain't nothing that I haven't seen, and there ain't nothing that I ain't been through, and you can trust me, and if you'll keep step with me, I'm going to pull with you, and you don't have to be scared, and you don't have to worry about the weight, because we're going to spread it out, and I'm going to help train you. I'm going to help show you how to do this thing right. Take my yoke upon you, he said, because my yoke is easy, my burden is light. The things you're carrying, this world is too heavy for you. You can't do it on your own. You ain't never been there before. So take that heaviness off and put on, Jesus is saying, do things my way, and I can show you that in difficult times, me and you together, we're going to keep walking. We're going to keep pulling. We're going to keep plowing, because if we will, we're going to reach the end. That's where we find our rest. Jesus is a humble and a patient teacher. He's not forcing anything heavy and ill-fitting on you. He's not putting his law and his ways are not burdensome, and they're not hard, and they're not difficult. In fact, they're really easy when you just attach yourself to him. Carry his yoke. He's gentle when we align ourselves with him. And this is what he promises us. He said, if you'll do this, if you'll come to me, if you'll bring me those burdens, if you'll take my yoke upon you, what will you find? This is the promise. Rest for your soul. Worship team, if you'll come. He said you'll find rest for what? Your soul. You'll find rest for your soul. This is what he doesn't promise. He doesn't say, I'm going to take all your problems away. He doesn't say that you won't have to wear a yoke at all. He doesn't say that there won't be heaviness and that there won't be pulling and that there won't be striving. He doesn't say that it's just going to be nothing to it, easy pickings, life of roses frolicking in the meadow somewhere. You're still going to have some things you walk through. But he said, if you'll do it with me, you'll find rest for your soul. Because the first thing that gets out of whack when we carry heavy burdens in this life, it's not typically our bodies. It's our soul. It's our thoughts. It's our emotions. The center of who we are. When things in this life get really heavy, our souls get infected. Our souls get weary. We get emotionally exhausted. All of a sudden, we're full of anxiety and fear, doubt, uncertainties. When the weights of this world weigh down and the pressure is unthinkable, the thing that it affects the most isn't our physical bodies. What's it affect? It affects our souls. See, Jesus doesn't promise, hey, I'm going to come in. If you'll come to me, I'm going to promise your parents are going to come. They're going to start coming to church. They're going to give their lives to me. Like your family's going to be awesome. I'm going to heal that family member, or I'm going to take care of that friendship, or I'm going to help you win the lottery, and you're going to be rich and not have to worry about stuff anymore. That's not what he promises. It'd be cool. I mean, I wouldn't say no. I'll tithe, Lord, I promise. Let me prove it. Come back up here, Kendall. He said, if you'll come to me, you'll find rest for your soul. That stress that you're feeling, you can find rest. When you feel like you're about to lose your mind, and your mind is just full of all these thoughts of, I don't know what to do, and are we going to make it out of this? What if this happens, or what if that happens? Say, no, I'm going to give you rest. When your emotions are out of control and you don't know whether to laugh or to cry or to scream or to punch something, when the weight of the world is like that, he said, I've got you. I've got you to find rest for your soul. See, Jesus promises us that when we come to Him and we align ourselves with Him, when we do things His way, He'll bring us rest. See, here's the deal. Kendall has been wearing this for a while. Are you tired of it? Yeah, she's super tired of it. She's been wearing this for just a little bit. The reality is some of us have been carrying weights for a lot longer than that. And this is a physical weight, and it's worn on her physical body. But some of you have been carrying emotional weights that have worn your souls out. You're emotionally exhausted. You're mentally spent. You're weary. I can feel it. I was praying for you today. I was praying for you, and knowing that I was going to preach this, and it's like the Holy Spirit just allowed me to feel some of the weight that you guys are carrying. You're like, man, I was like, Lord, how much weight are they carrying? What are the things that just seem heavy to them? And it's like all of a sudden, I feel like the weight of the world. I was just like, man, these kids are young. Some of them are in some of the most unthinkable situations. Difficulty and heaviness. And can I just tell you, this is what Jesus is saying to you tonight. This is His promise to you tonight. He said, hey, you showed up to church, but I've come all this way. And I've said, hey, I'm standing right here knocking. Right here in this moment. In this moment right here, I'm knocking on the door. And I'm saying, if you'll just open the door to me, if you'll just let me in, that burden and that weight that you've been carrying, how's that feel? It feels amazing, doesn't it? It's like you'll be able to breathe again. Be able to move again. It's like a breath of fresh air. Why? Because He'll take the heaviness. He'll take the burden. Thank you, Kendall. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and I'm humble in heart. You will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That's the promise of God for you today.